Hello, and welcome to season 2 of In Light of It All, the podcast exploring the fascinating ways light and design shape our lives. Light influences everything, your sleep, mood, and even your hormones. Here we dive into everything light touches: colors, surfaces, textures, psychology, neuroaesthetics, and chronobiology. We'll also explore the future of healthy design, blending the latest technology with our ancient rhythms. We spend 90% of our lives indoors, more time than maximum security prisoners, and yet light, the force that guides how we feel and function, is often overlooked. My goal is simple: to take incredible academic research and distill it into bite-sized insights that even I can understand. If you like the sound of that, follow us on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, and without further ado, let's get into it. Hello, so today we are talking to Ali Heshmati. Ali is a senior architect and design director at LEADinc in Bergen, Norway, and a PhD researcher at NTNU. With over 3 decades of practice teaching and public art, he is pioneering the field of biometric architecture, exploring how buildings measurably affect human physiology, circadian rhythms, and cognitive performance. In this episode, Annie reveals why humans evolved under 100,000 lux of daylight, yet spend their lives under dim interiors of 500 lux or less. We explore the health costs of this mismatch, how light deprivation impacts well-being, and how architecture could serve as preventative care. If you've ever felt drained by a space or uplifted by another, this conversation explains why. Hope you enjoy.
So little introduction, just to save you blushing. So Ali is a true pioneer in this field of redefining how architecture shapes our minds and bodies. So for over 30 years, Ali has bridged groundbreaking science and design. First as an award-winning architect with 30 plus international accolades for projects from Norway to the US, and now as the innovator behind Biometric Architecture, a field he's pioneering through his PhD at NTNU. His mission? To prove buildings aren't just structures, they're living systems that influence our stress levels, sleep, even our hormones. As a senior architect at Henning Larsen, a well-building expert and a fellow nominee of the American Institute of Architects, Ali's work has taken him from designing daylight-optimized control rooms in Norway to keynote stages worldwide, like his recent talks on how light alters our circadian health. His vision is bold, a future where architects prescribe spaces like medicine, using physiological biomarkers as design tools. So, Ali, let's start with this. When you say a room can measurably change our biology, what is the most surprising data you've uncovered?
Well, I've been essentially the last 10 years been paying attention to how architecture and built environment influences our physiology as a key into understanding what physiological biomarkers are altered and how. I've been finding that light especially has a very significant effect on, or bunch of effects, if you will, on human psychology and human physiology. So the light environment perhaps is the most relevant environment in our conversation today and in my research. How does it impact our physiology and psychology? Is that light essentially is what has given birth to our biology. If you imagine 3.8 billion years of biology has evolved on Earth under the solar cycle. And we start our days with sunrise, and we end our days with sunset. And these two modes, this cycle of light and dark, has probably the most important and most consequential effect on our mood, our mental and physiological performance, as well as our health. We call the rhythms that inner rhythms of ours, the biological rhythms of ours, circadian rhythms, meaning they're averaging about or are about a 24-hour cycle. And during this 24-hour, if you imagine that our biology really sort of dates back to Africa and that part of the world, would be 12 hours of light, 12 hours of dim light and dark, right? So we have billions of clocks inside our bodies that sort of tune our physiology, our hormonal secretions, or even behavior with the availability of light. Therefore, it's very important to understand how light in built environment now, because we didn't really grow up, we didn't evolve in buildings, right? It's only about the last, I can say, about the last 100 years that we are using buildings the way we use buildings. Before the advent of electricity and electrical light bulb, we were really working with availability of daylight. And when the daylight was there, even if we were working inside buildings, we were in near proximity of daylight for at least the task performance, right? Nowadays, we don't care.
It's a complete habitat shift.
We don't care. So, and then we don't have that contrast that we used to have. We don't have brilliant light during the early hours of the day, and then we don't have a total darkness at night. So this has huge impact on our health, from cardiovascular disorders to hormonal disorders to some neurodegenerative disorders. They are all associated with disruption of circadian rhythms we talked about, and or sleep. Sleep also itself is a great indicator of health, and one of the most significant rhythms that we are talking about, circadian rhythms. So generally speaking, we are talking about really the crux of the matter in terms of health and built environment, where they come together.
So what's the, I mean, obviously for me, it's always been apparent that light is super impactful.
Yes.
We'll talk maybe a little bit about the other senses later on, but could you maybe talk a little bit about the effect that light has on us with regards to sort of visual and non-visual, the way that these light sources, both natural and artificial, affect us, and sort of a bit of an overview as to where we're at now and what we understand?
Yeah, this is great, because whenever we talk about light, of course, the first thing and the most important thing is our vision, right? And question of safety and health even relates to it to some extent. But it is about 2.5 decades ago, about 25 years ago, essentially 30 years ago, that we found out, scientists found out that there are these fifth kind of photoreceptors in the retina.
IPRGs.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Intrinsically photosensitive ganglion cells, right? That have a direct sort of responsibility to wake us up and, essentially to entrain or photo-entrain our circadian rhythms.
So these are sat just on the retina, right?
These are actually, here, let's talk about retinal cells, right? So we have we knew about 4 different kinds, which were the rods and cones, right? The cones were 3 kinds, and then the rods. The rods are, sensitive to very little light. So if you go walking in moonlight, I talk to people, sometimes they see their shadow, right? You see your shadow. If I asked you how many lux of light do you think moonlight puts out on the earth, you may guess. Tell me.
I'm
how
trying
many.
to think now. I mean, you put me on the
Just-
spot.
just-
I mean, I bet it's super. I mean,
I mean,
I
you
think
see your
someone's told me
shadow,
this
right?
before. Is it something like 20 lux or 50 lux or something really small?
Well, it's actually smaller than that.
Yeah, I
it's,
knew it
it's
was-
third of 1 lux.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Third of 1 lux, your eyes are able to see.
So
Those
lux
are-
being a measurement of brightness on a surface. just for-
Exactly. We were talking about, 1 lux being 1 lumen from 1 meter, sent from a candle from 1 meter on a 1 meter by 1 meter
And
surface.
midday is up to 20,000 lux, right?
Oh,
So
at
it's kind of
least we
just
were
a
talking.
contrast of-
If you talk about midday sun, we are talking about 100,000 lux and more, right? And then if you
it's
talk
one-
about in
it's-
the shade of a, let's say, tree in a sunny day,
Yeah.
you're talking about 10,000 lux.
Yeah.
That's a lot of lux, right?
So it's practically no light.
Exactly. So the dark of the night, even in moonlight, you're talking about is almost total darkness. We don't have that anymore, right? So that's one part. We're talking about the rods, and then we talk about cones. Cones are a little less sensitive to light. They see from 10 lux and up. Generally, that's where you start seeing colors, right? If you think back to the moonlight again, you wouldn't be able to see colors because those photosensitive neurons cannot see color before 10 lux and up.
So what I sorry to interrupt you on this as
Yeah,
well.
no,
What I
go-
love is
go
if
for
we're
it.
talking about the shape of the retina, it's a circle,
Right,
and then the middle is where you have cones for color and rods,
right.
and then as the pupil dilates, trying to capture light in low lighting conditions, the light is then falling on the outer side of the retina, which is mainly rods. So that's for sort of nighttime vision, correct?
Right. Here, retina would be a curtain, right, on the back of your eye, right? So the light comes in, of course, through the lens, turns upside down, right? So, of course, light comes from every direction, right? So hits the retina, goes to the back of the retina, and then starts traveling forward to actually have phototransduction effect. Those are effects that we are talking about. Right now, we were talking about 2 sets of neurons or 4 sets of neurons, and then the third one we talk about, fifth one we talk about in a sec. They would then turn this light signal that comes to them into chemical and electrical pulses that are sent to different parts of the brain. For vision, of course, they go to the vision center, right? And they go through and sort of turn around and make the upside down image right side up. But for this other system that we were just talking about, the intrinsic photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, those guys get the light, and these are very few actually cells, and then turn it into signals which is sent to suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is a center for this timing. About 50,000 neurons bundled together, right?
It's about the size of a pea, right?
Those
pea-sized shape.
pea-sized, 2 pea-sized shape bundle of nerves, essentially. And these nerves then send those signals to different parts of the body to secrete different hormones, to make you feel hungry, for example, and so on and so forth.
I like this expression. Professor Russell Foster
Yeah,
describes it as a kind of like a conductor in an orchestra,
absolutely.
telling the body, all the various zeitgeists or body signals, what the overarching things it needs to do is.
Absolutely. Imagine if your whole body sort of daily activity is an orchestrated sort of effect, right? and without a conductor, they could be all over the place, right? And they would make noise, but it would not be music. It would not be
It's
harmonic.
like a grade 6 brass band.
Exactly.
No musical cohesion, just noise.
Exactly, just noise. And that noise is the disruption in the system, right? And that disruption then is associated with, and when I say associated with, and I'm trying to stay away from causing, because we don't know of a causal relationship yet. It's not established. When it's established, you can then say causing. But we know that disruption of circadian rhythms and sleep are highly associated with certain set of disorders and diseases. So the fifth kind that we were just talking about of these neurons in the retina are essentially, they were discovered about 25, 30 years ago, and they are responsible for these other impacts of light, the non-visual impacts of light. But we also have talked, you and I have talked about this before, that light beyond that system going through the eye and impacting your health has other health impacts. For example, the UVB being responsible for vitamin D synthesis. So or near infrared and infrared,
which is a hot topic.
Absolutely, being important for athletic recovery, being important for
eye health,
myopia, for
blood
example, blood flow, and blood pressure itself, and also mitochondria. Energy use.
Yeah.
Energy use.
Charging the human battery pack.
Exactly. So this is important in context of architecture very much, because today almost every glass on a window that is specified as low E. I don't know if you've heard that, low E glass.
So is that UV protected?
Well, yeah, low E cuts the UV and cuts the infrared and near infrared. Why? Well, cuts the UV because you don't want your textile to be faded, right? Against fading of textile. We cut all UV. And then on the other end, we are cutting near infrared and infrared because we don't want heat gain. We don't want sort of a greenhouse effect, right? Okay. Well, we're cutting this and we're cutting that because of, again, textile fading and then heat gain. But we forget that people that are living inside that building or inside that place need UV and need infrared and near infrared for health reasons. So health of our textile has become more important than health of our bodies. Just this is the weirdest thing, isn't it?
I heard,
and it is because we didn't know about these things. Now we know, so we have to change. Right?
I heard an amazing fact the other day. Well, one of the big premises for having these conversations, and why I'm in Norway right now, speaking with you, right, is the fact that we spend 90% of our time indoors. So by the age of 40, you likely would have spent 37 years of your life indoors, which is crazy. And we're prioritizing textiles over what we need, which is crazy.
Exactly.
So, which is actually, when you think about it, that is actually a visual processing preference, right? We're thinking about what we see more in the built environment than the non-visual and how we live.
Exactly, because that's what we knew, right? And, speaking of the new science, you must understand that actually Professor Foster was talking about this, that has written about this, that this science is not even taught at medical schools yet.
So this is also what I'm...
So we want to teach it to architects. We want to tell architects and people involved in technological part of built environment that there is this other part that we have to pay attention to.
So I have this stat which I've mentioned in the show before, but architects will spend 10 years studying buildings, as long as doctors spend studying the human body. But there's not a single biology module during that 10 years of working out what the purpose of the building is. No. It's form over function. And that's the reason for the show, and the reason for, sort of I try and talk at universities just to get the message out about this research. And, it is amazing. And we're talking about how you apply that then. So we know that light has these non-visual effects. How do you then start integrating that science into the built environment?
Let's kind of look at architecture before, let's say, before 1930s, before the real industrial level use of electricity and light bulb. Even when it was focused on visual impact of light, buildings were a lot narrower. Buildings had a lot more windows. Buildings, spaces, generally interior spaces were light filled, taller windows, closer to the ceiling. All of those sort of design parameters or design strategies, if you will, have been lost because we don't care anymore. We have light bulbs. The problem with light bulbs, of course, is that they are not capable of delivering the same thing that the sun does. Even the ones that are really high-end right now and capable of, doing better than sunlight in some ways, are very expensive and energy consuming and have impact and so on and so forth. So one major part of this is to remember essentially what we have lost from the past. Definitely daylighting strategies, solar used to call them passive solar strategies, orientation, how do you, where do you put the spaces that are most active and so on and so forth. Also, there is a behavioral issue here too. As we talked about, as you just said, we are spending more than 90% of our lives within, interior environments. This wasn't the case, in the 1800s, for example. So we have to make sure that we manage our lives differently. We have to behave differently. We have to get out a little more often, earlier in the day, if we can. Of course, when we can't, we have to have the environment made for this sort of exposure, if you will. So there's a balance there between behavior and culture and architecture, right?
100%. I mean, it sort of made me think of this book I'm reading, which name escapes me, but I'll put it in the description, where it says they've done studies where just having 3 days outside hiking, camping, and waking up, the benefits in terms of health, creativity, relaxation, in core markers like cortisol level, blood pressure, I guess more qualitative, probably quantitative tests of creativity, last for 3 weeks, which is wild, right? 3 days of just getting back into that cycle of nature and smells and sounds and light. 3 weeks of benefits. But there's an interesting thing, to do with melanopic lux as well. So is there guidance you can sort of offer on how to attribute that? Do you think it's a good metric? And do you want to explain maybe what it is as well?
Oh, yeah, it is actually a great metric. I think, the 2018 CIE's sort of workshop and then paper on that was very, very important because now we have a standard that sort of takes your normal photopic lux and turns it into something that is comparable with daylight, with sunlight. So that's exactly what it is. Essentially, you just, for example, what we are, what is put on us right now is taken and then compared to spectral power of the daylight, its coloration and its intensity, and then there's a sort of a ratio that comes out. Alpha-opic lux, which includes photopic lux, and then melanopic lux, and melanopic EDI lux, and so on and so forth.
So in simple terms, what are they?
In simple terms, melanopic lux is amount and quality of light that impacts the intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion
Our
cells.
body clocks.
Our body clocks. And our mood, and our focus, and our performance, cognitive performance. So it is, the body clock is related to those things, but this system generally has a direct impact on your mood, for example. Your hunger even. At night, for example, people feel hungry and they don't know why. They just ate about 2 hours ago. But we know now that light has that impact. If the secretion of melatonin at night is suppressed because of
Artificial light.
bright light,
Yeah.
just the bright light, right? Artificial light. You call it, I call it electric light generally. Then you feel hungry because your brain says, hey, it's day, time to be active. You need to, consume some energetic stuff.
Do you wear blue light blocking glasses in the evening?
I do every night.
You feel a big difference when you're...
Absolutely. I have heard people talking about it and some saying, no, there is not much of a difference. Go look at almost all the papers that are written about, in field, about stuff that we're talking about. Everybody uses these. All the scientists use these.
It would be a bit rich if you weren't wearing them at home. There's an expression, a busman's holiday, about someone who drives a bus for a living. Won't do a holiday where a bus is involved.
Exactly.
It's kind of maybe because you've researched it all day. You don't want to have to put it into action.
But yeah, I do wear them because they have a direct impact on
I felt it
secretion.
As well. I do the same, and it really makes a big difference.
They make a big difference.
Especially on, I flew here last night and my flight landed at midnight.
Yeah.
So I had the orange glasses on, and a lot of people were kind of looking at me like I was trying to pretend to be some sort of Hollywood actor. Bono, exactly. And, it took a little bit of like, come on, just ignore him, whatever. But as soon as I got off the airplane and out of, and into the taxi and got to the hotel, I took them off, went straight to sleep, and I slept, really well. Whereas before I'd be charged, my body would be pumped full of cortisol, and so it's a huge positive impact.
And melatonin, as you know, there are people that call it sleep hormone, but we know it's not a sleep hormone. It doesn't make you sleepy, by the way. What it does, though, this is the biomarker of the onset of the night rhythms for
Sleep
us,
pressure.
for human. For other animals, it's opposite actually. For nocturnal animals, it's opposite. So for us, is tells the body it's night, tells the brain it's night. So it's very important to make sure that your melatonin onset is on time, and that those glasses would help. Especially in Norway, for example, right now you have daylight till 12 o'clock at night. So
I hadn't really, when I was in the taxi, I was wearing the orange glasses, and I was like, I think I probably need it because I want to get to sleep. And I took them off, and I was like, is my clock just not updated from the plane? I was like, what's going on? And I was like, oh wait, no, I'm in Scandinavia. Okay, no, it makes sense.
No, it's
Yeah.
light
Took me
here.
a moment after a long flight, a long week. Is that
It's
right?
light here, so people actually could use them a lot, and also they cut the amount of light, because bright light, regardless of coloration, has an impact. We know that now. That it used to be that we thought just the blue light is kind of doing the work, but we now know that all light do have effect.
Is that
to
because
some
of the
extent,
glare? So the intensity
the intensity.
on
Intensity
the
matters.
eye.
Intensity of, well, if you think about light intensity, spectral power, timing, duration, direction, and of course, age of the lens matter.
So are there good and bad blue light blocking glasses as well? Because surely there's a lot of crap out there.
I'm going to tell you this. Yes, there are.
Yeah.
So you need to see a certificate or someone that has a certificate. Some of these, a few of them are registered as class 1 medical device. That means they get a certificate yearly by a national or international body that authorizes that this glass is doing what it says it's doing. This lens is doing what it says it's doing. It should cut about 99% of blue light, which is very important, but then also should reduce the amount of light that comes to your, the intensity by about third or more.
What about chronotypes? If we talk about chronotypes a little
Yes.
bit, are they scientifically backed as existing? And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is huge. Yeah.
maybe explain a little bit about what, it's the inherited body clocks from our tribal ancestry.
Yeah.
Right?
So, okay. Well, think about time as sort of 3 different things, right? 3 different ideas. One is the standard time, which differs around the, Earth, right? Right now here we're sitting, it's about 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Somewhere else is different than here, In your neck of the wood would be a 1 hour ahead or behind, right? And so on and so forth, right? But then there is this other notion of time, which is the biological time. Biological time, and then there is celestial time. We can talk about that, sun going up and down. Sun going up and down itself, solar time, is not a 24-hour exact thing. We know that. It's always a little more or a little less than 24 hours every day.
Felt nowhere more than where we are right now.
Right? Our standard time though is 24 hours, almost exact, right? So now then you have biological time. The third one that we are talking about, and that is personal to every person. That's why we call it circadian rhythms, right? So your biological time may run 24:15, 24:20, 25:26, and my biological time may run 23 something. Very different, right? This is exactly where sun matters. Daylight matters. Because every day, daylight shifts a little bit seasonally, right? Daily and seasonally. But that little bit is not enough to mess your brain so much that you go through the stress of, let's say, jet lag, which you go through. So chronotype really matters because most people run late. What does that mean? It means that they are a little longer than 24 hours. on average.
Mm.
And then some of us are early. So we call them owls and larks, right?
Mm.
Owls being late, larks being early. And study after study shows that early people are healthier.
Mm.
I'm a late person.
Me too.
I,
Me too.
I envy that. But
Is that because of society, or is it because of other metrics? I mean, why is it that the early birds?
There is another
Because
notion
they're
of
more
time.
in tune with the
No,
societal.
there is another notion of time which I didn't talk about, which would be the
society.
fourth one, the social time, right?
Yeah.
This society sets the time sort of schedule for you, and you have to follow. So that is yet another one. So if we didn't have the social time, these 3 times would be very easy to manage. Because you physiologically, biologically, you would wake up at certain hours and you go to bed at certain hours. And if you had access to daylight, like study that you were talking about, 3 days would set you up for a couple of weeks, right? 3 days actually can set you up, and then if you go through that, you're set. You're entrained, we say. But if you don't, if these times, these notions of time, don't match, are not harmonized, then we have a problem.
How the hell do we manage that then?
Well, we don't.
Yeah.
That's why
perfect.
we have a lot of us have sleep problem, right?
Social jet lag.
Social jet lag is another one. Social jet lag, of course, relevant to chronotype, happens mainly for late people. And late people have a tendency to go to bed later during the weekend, Friday night, Saturday night, and then they have to catch up. Well, social jet lag can be defined very easily. Imagine mid-time of your sleep, right, during the work days, and then mid-time of your sleep during the weekends, and then subtract them from each other. What you get is actual jet lag. We call it social jet lag, but it's the same stress that your body goes through in order to adapt to a new environment. So studies have shown, for example, that when a team travels from one end to another end with a couple of hours, has more chance to lose. That's why
those NFL teams, wasn't it?
Yeah. So they have
east going to west.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
No, the other way.
West versus to east because you're staying up later.
But there are other studies that show even people on the eastern end of one time zone, because again, these are arbitrary geographic stuff,
yeah,
right?
they're just lines in the sand, literally, aren't they?
Exactly. So the eastern part of a time zone, people are healthier than the western time.
No way.
Because the western time are using the same hour, but later, right?
Yeah.
In the day.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy because I know they also do this with race horses and stuff like that, where, for weeks before a big race, before, an Irish horse gets flown to America, it's circadian rhythm lighting to try and...
That has become a science, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, Olympics, people don't go there just day before they have to do their work. They go there 3 weeks before for their body to acclimate to that.
Well, I think the most number of world records have set in the early afternoon as well, because the body has relaxed and.
This is another thing. Well, generally speaking, early afternoon, your body has its peak performance.
So you need to also entrain within that climate to make sure that your body is at that.
If you want to lift, for example, if you want to lift heavier and heavier stuff, about 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon is the best time. If you wake up about 7, 8 in the morning. So if you're a later person, that's not the best time.
That's all later. For all the people listening at Muscle Beach. Let's get down there at 4 o'clock.
Exactly.
That's where you'll pick people up.
But I think the health science as relates to the athletics has grown a lot, and they have embraced chronobiology really very fast, and they understand it.
Well, NASA is another big one, right? So a lot of the work and research is done for people up in the space station seeing 3 or 4 sunrises a day.
Oh no, 16.
16. I knew it was more than normal. 16 times. It's crazy. Yeah.
So yes, exactly.
The ultimate test lab, right?
Yeah, they have to sort of make an artificial day and night for themselves to be sort of healthy. Otherwise, they go through a day 16 times. It's just cannot. I mean, the body cannot do it. As I said, 3.8 billion years of human biology is
and you're
not
floating in a
change
Pringles tube around in space.
Yeah,
seeing the sun rise and set
exactly.
16 times.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we? I mean, realistically, there's 4 time issues that we're having to battle with, as you say. So, within society, how do we manage that? What are the sort of? You said that we can't really handle that, but what's the best that we can do? And then we'll get into exploring whether that changes by sector or age or.
Yeah, remember we talked about 2 things. The built environment and also the behavioral culture or culture. We can, for example, change the time that adolescents come to class. That's an easy thing to do.
Asking a teenager to wake up at 7 a.m. is the equivalent of asking a 50-year-old to wake up at 5 a.m.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. Their brain is not ready to learn anything. They're zombies.
Is that because they're rewiring their primal brain into their frontal lobe?
Nobody knows. Or actually, there is not enough yet to show exactly what it is that is calling this. You're right. There is a lot of rewiring that is happening, but nobody knows why young people are later.
I guess it's hormones, way more hormones. Body needs time to adjust and integrate.
That could be, but also right now the social sort of media use at night. I mean, that is not the most helpful thing because, your brain gets engaged and you cannot just let go. So you're up till about 2 a.m, and then you have to wake up and go to class
with addictive garbage. Yeah, it's just
and so we know on the other side we know
squirrel on water skis. It's crazy.
Exactly.
What am I doing? It's 4 a.m.
Exactly, and the other part of it is that that we know that sleep deprivation means bad mental performance. Anyway, so you're coming to class at 7 o'clock in the morning. You have slept, let's say, 3 hours less than what you needed. Of course, you're not going to perform. So it is ridiculous that we insist that teenagers should come to school at the time they should come to school. This I understand for the teachers. The teachers are at their peak performance at that time.
But there's a crossover there, right? Like if basically, just compress the working day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. as opposed to 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. till 6 p.m.
Oh yeah.
So if school is 9 till 6, why not do 10 till 5 or 10 till 4?
Yeah.
And retention, I imagine absenteeism would drop, memory retention would improve. So that's a big one then, really, isn't it? It's society is fucked. So the first one is acknowledging flexibility, really.
Yeah.
And I guess there must be an overarching one for the population in general, but then also thinking about chronotypes. Do you think there needs to be flexibility within the realms of what individuals need within that generalized time requirement for an age demographic?
Yeah, you've heard of this phrase neurodiversity these days. I think chronotype is kind of a neurodiversity if you think about it. You're wired differently. We are all wired differently. Standards can only go so far, right? So maybe we can have schools for early people and schools for late people, or even workplaces can work that way, right? Could if the social time is tweaked to a point that you can come to work, as you said, about 10 o'clock, and then leave at 4 or 5. That's perhaps better because at least you get maybe, if you woke up about 7, 8, you can get an hour of outdoor activity before you head for a job, before you're in your workplace. And if you're a student, you actually woken up by the time you get to school. So yes, performance would be better. People would be more productive. If we sort of manage this social cultural end, but also we need to make architectural environments, built environment, better. We need to design with this idea that early in the day, we need to have good amount of light. When I say good amount of light, I'm talking about
10,000 lux.
Really good amount of light. Of course, glare is an issue, as you know. And when we talk about electric light, we need to understand that electric light can really perform as a great supplement. But it should not be this, the main thing, the main course.
How would you, so thinking about melanopic lux, right, which is the artificial like-for-like measurement of, electric light, right, as you've referred to as.
Don't say
compared
sorry.
Compared to.
I'm going to tell you. I got to tell you why I do that.
No. Why do you do it?
Well, I think that regardless of source, light is light, especially for the brain. The brain, the phototransduction that we were talking about, this, process of turning light signals to electrical and chemical signals happens regardless of where the light comes from. So light itself is just electromagnetic wave. Now, there's nothing artificial about that. You're right, the source of light is electric. So when you say artificial light, it's a little of a misnomer, right? So I sort of don't want to call it that because I think that all light is natural. All light is light for the brain. Therefore, I call it light or electric light by the source.
No, it's accurate. It makes sense.
That's why. But I haven't.
No, that sounds good. I wanted to know anyway. It's all right. So we're full circle. But so in terms of melanopic lux, which is a light produced by indoor light sources, should we say? Comparing, I'll call it artificial light, just for my own brain's sake. But so calling so melanopic lux, comparing the brightness of a surface or a wall indoors compared to natural light, and it's got to be at a level to trigger the hormones in your body that indicate that it's daytime.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
absolutely.
What's the minimum melanopic lux you need, and then how can you manage that in the context of presumably needing a lot compared to what we would aesthetically see as beautiful design?
Absolutely. Here, when we talk about visual sort of end of this, we know that regulations talk about 300 to 500 lux of light for, office work and general work, school work. And then, if it goes a lot sort of higher intensity, for example, for lab work, the work is a lot more
hospitals,
visual,
precision surgery,
precision,
mental stimulation and visibility, I guess.
Means, we are to go into 1200 lux of light and so on and so forth. But all of this, as I said, because those neurons, the rods and cones, are a lot more sensitive to light and a lot faster in phototransduction. For example, if you turn your head just a second, in a millisecond, you can see something, right? That how fast they are. But these other sensors that we talked about are not that fast, and they need a lot more light. So 2020, there was a paper that came out of this workshop that was done for consensus recommendation of a bunch of great scientists about melanopic lux. How much do we need? How much do we? So their general sort of recommendation, which I would like to talk a little bit with you about this also, is about 250 melanopic lux during the early hours of the day, and then reduced to in the evening about 50, and then and before sleep about 10. Actually, this would be more accurate. About 10 before sleep, and then 1 lux, melanopic lux we are talking. Because every time we talk about melanopic lux, you have to understand, if you had, for example, a blue light, it puts a different type of ratio out of melanopic lux than let's say red light. Okay? So
so the same brightness, but the wavelengths will result in a different melanopic lux value.
Exactly, because because as we said, this is a ratio between daylight and electric light.
Wavelength and quantity.
Intensity, yes.
Intensity,
wavelength. And of course, timing, we said, matters. But in this case, it's mainly quality and quantity, wavelength and spectral power. So they are talking about 250 throughout the early hours of the day. At least, they're talking at least 250 melanopic lux. And then you reduce it. At night, they recommend, 3 hours before sleep, they recommend about 10 lux, melanopic lux, and then 1 in your sleep area.
Moonlight.
Or less than, exactly, less than 1 lux, 1 melanopic lux. The problem, and these scientists are just really great because they know exactly, they're talking about a generalized sort of recommendation. They're not talking about everybody. They know that older people need their own sort of category of light. Younger people are different. They also know that different conditions would call for different sort of standards.
I don't want to break your flow because this is brilliant. But it's interesting. Is this an appropriate time to look at, younger people and then elder people and how that might be adapted?
This is exactly, because when you're about 10 years old, your, let's say your eye capacity to take light in is 100%. About 10 years old. Now, when you're 85, 90, you have 10% of that 100%. That means if I, gave you the same light intensity, only about 1/10 of that goes to your retina. So ocular light drops drastically by the time you're about 80, 90, right? And it starts happening after 40, actually. So just imagine, if you're
so from 10 till 40, you have the same...
Almost. You can say almost the same. Some people change, but not mostly. If you talk about general sort of population, general idea, an
10
average
to 40
would be
is about
about
the same.
it,
So from
it
40
drops,
till 90?
It drops some, but it doesn't drop, let's say, more than 10%. But then from 40 to 90,
huge drop off.
Huge. And it happens like 50 and 60 and so on and so forth. So when you talk about
And that's the lens frosting over, really, right?
not
It's
just the,
thickening the
the lens
cells.
itself, the
Degeneration.
containment inside, it gets yellower,
Mm.
lens gets weaker. All of these things contribute. Yellower interior of the eye also contributes to changing of the spectral power of light, right? Because it's yellow. It seems, remember you're
It's
talking
like
about the orange
it's like
lens?
a filter.
Yeah, it's a filter.
It's all, I mean, your muscles get weaker as well, so your pupils get smaller as you get older.
Your pupils
as well.
are not working the same way.
Yeah.
Exactly. So just imagine now, if you were to take these recommendations and you're designing an elderly housing or elderly care facility, and you say, well, 250 millinopic lux, as I have heard it actually from a friend, a lighting designer friend, 250 millinopic lux is enough because we cannot afford to put more money into this. And I'm going, okay, well, I know it's not, but you go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Because you're not making any difference there. And there are a good number of studies, again, as have shown 2,000 lux, this is before millinopic lux, 2,000 lux of light had improved quality of behavior and life in elderly facilities. And this is 2,000 lux of light we're talking about, normal lux, not the millinopic lux. So if you talk about 250 for elderly facilities, not enough at all. For young people, on the other hand, yes, of course.
So how do you balance? So obviously you need to adjust it depending on age.
Right.
But then how do you implement it into a space in a way that feels natural? Because for me, one of the biggest things is contrast. You look at hospitals, schools, universities, wherever you might be, it's just floodlit with artificial light. And for me, that's just like a synthetic way of illuminating a habitat.
I
There
agree.
should be movement and shadows.
Oh, you're so good. You're coming at it as a lighting designer, almost like a lighting designer that understands lighting beyond just visual task performance.
It's good to hear.
Yeah. I mean, it is important to understand that
enough bloody reading about
even
it.
in the natural space, in nature, in natural space, we don't have the same light conditions everywhere. As I said, if you were outside, let's say, under shade of a tree, you would get 10,000 lux. Outside that shade, you would get 80,000, 100,000 lux of light.
But because it's
Very
natural
different.
light, that behavior of sunlight is familiar to us because
Exactly.
of the,
Exactly.
billions of years of evolution. But how would you then, because then it's contrast and glare. And this is the formula that I'm trying to crack, right? Because it's population, it's sector, it's neurodiversity, it's diversity in everything, hemispheric, evolutionary, but then it's artificial light and implementing it in a way that is bright enough to sustain millinopic lux, adaptable enough to help you wind down as well, but then put into a scenario where it doesn't feel like it's just being blasted. So controlling
Right.
the
Right.
light, and I just,
And
I mean,
this
how
is-
the hell do you do that?
But this is the whole notion of design, isn't it? Design. I mean, in design, whether it's architectural, spatial design, or lighting design, or different aspects of it, we constantly look for not a unified sort of space, not a sort of average, mediocre thing, right? We have to look at activities and the level of sort of engagement and so on and so forth. And I'm going to use an example here to make sure that we are doing the right thing at the right place at the right time, or provide places, varieties that people can occupy in variety of situations.
This is one of the biggest things that keeps coming up.
Yeah.
Which I think is,
Yeah.
So people able to, because you feel different on a Monday to a Thursday. You may have a fight. You may have gone to a comedy night and feel, your emotions and hormones are different. So it's tuning in and then putting yourself into the space that you need.
Exactly.
Tuning to yourself.
But for a designer, to provide that diversity of a space, if I go back to what you were talking about, I think, shopping malls, for example. God,
horrible
shopping
places.
Yes. At some point, shopping malls were made to really be all sort of same sort of lighting all around. A little bit of variation, but it was mainly to sell you stuff, right? So, what makes an orange look good versus what makes, a clothing, for example, to stand out. But most of it was this uniform sort of thing. And I think we have approached a lot of places that way. We just say, okay, this is a classroom. It needs to be like this. But then when the classroom goes beyond certain size, with certain lighting, it can be very, very, very loud and very sort of busy. So we had this problem in a project. I wasn't part of that project, which is very interesting. And people solved it in a very interesting way. So the classroom was made of certain size. There were like more than 30-some students in it, younger students. And the teachers were constantly complaining about the level of noise, how these people are
I think
just
I would have been in
wired.
that classroom.
Right. Same here. So then designers came up with this idea that we just almost turn off the general lighting and make group lightings, sort of focus lighting.
Pools of light.
Pools of light in different parts of the classroom, concentrated on a group, table, and whatever is around it. The noise levels fell so drastically that everybody was happy without any acoustic intervention, because acoustic interventions were done already. So lighting as acoustic, lighting as an acoustic design intervention, that is smart.
Well, that's it. I mean, this is the thing for me is I love that.
Right.
The thing for me is,
I can send you that.
Please do.
Yeah, I will send you.
I'll tag you on LinkedIn and say, good chat. Thank you. The thing for me is it's, your eyes are budded out of your head to capture radiation and to respond to it in various ways. And I always think that light is this invisible, is it, particle duality, how light is a physical thing and it acts as a particle and a wavelength. I think in a funny way, that's kind of exactly, well, not a funny kind of way, it is literally what it is. So for me, there is also a physical and, a wavelength, a sort of puppeteer string effect of light on us as well. So, just how light is physical and a wave, its effect on us is physical and string-like, where it can guide us and coerce us.
Absolutely.
And, it's the positive impact or negative impact of it within the environment is so huge. And I know that, building regulations have been created to try and, I think we think the same on this, but what do you think of building regs? What do you think of the frameworks? Do you think because I've heard stories about how all the regulations that we now have with lux levels in an office were created back in the 70s when...
Even before that.
When we used to smoke and the ceilings were tar covered, we'd also measure it between, a 20-year-old and an 80-year-old where, you need 60% more light for an 80-year-old or whatever it might be. So we've got these over-egged, the numbers are way higher than they should be because the measurements were incorrect. And we've kept on using them. And then we also have, misunderstandings about how, builders will say, oh, we need 500 lux everywhere in this office, where it's actually just, one A4 section of a desk.
Yeah.
And it's that contrast. And how do you think they're crap? Do you think the
Yeah,
policies
well,
are...
I think, here, let me just step back and say that most of the time these standards that we see today as guidelines or codes or building codes or regulations come from some sort of scientific or engineering sort of background. CIE and, Society of Illuminance Engineers and blah, blah, blah. And most of them, because of their age, because of how old they are generally rooted in vision and visual task performance, visual safety. You didn't want people to fall, contrast you were talking about, for example. You didn't want people to fall on their faces when they're walking from their desk to another desk. And you wanted people to be able to read, let's say, a document on the table surface without straining too much on their eyes. So those were done for reasons, and those reasons were very relevant at the time they were done. I should say that. Now, but as we talked about these 5 different types of photosensors in the retina, we know that although the regulations are still working and okay for visual task performance, they're not sufficient. They are actually suboptimal for circadian rhythms, for focus, for mood fluctuations, and so on and so forth. So we need actually a lot more light. But I don't believe it is smart to think that general lighting should be responsible for circadian entrainment, because it's a very expensive proposition. And, it has ecological footprint if you think about it that way. I think that we need to sort of have supplementary electric lights for circadian entrainment, but they are supplementary. The main source, again, back to daylight and the scheduling that we were talking about, and daylight and solar design strategies that we have forgotten. So I think that it is possible to come up with new regulations and people are working on it already, that address circadian entrainment and mood fluctuation and performance, cognitive performance issues, a lot more than what we have done so far. When they get to place, I don't know. Right now, they're not there.
Well, guidelines and legislation are great, in my opinion. They are, and they serve a really good purpose, and they are founded in fact as well. Sort of doing the best that we can for the built environment and the people designing it. I think it's just interesting that with this new knowledge and the wave that is currently sort of coming in with understanding this kind of stuff, it's interesting now to think about, the next step. And as you know, it's great to hear that, as you say, people are looking at that and excited to see what comes from that. Do you think that urban lighting and, we think about wider biodiversity and, the bluing effect, which happened when halogens switched to LEDs and the world turned into a blue wavelength very quickly, and that has far more energetic potency than a red wavelength, so scatters around entire cities, which then creates a halo, a bluing effect that attracts insects, that attracts bats, that attracts all the owls, and it's a biodiversity crisis. Is there a risk of moving to infrared and ultraviolet and starting to affect animals as well. I mean, in essence, wavelengths will always damage. So how do you suggest, what would the perfect futuristic
Lighting.
illumination look like to you?
Yeah,
in
you mean
a harmonious way?
you're talking exterior now.
I think I was, but I've changed my mind.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you, what does your ideal situation look like in the future?
This is exactly, again, back to design. You know, when we talk about architectural spaces, I mean, I have a building across my living room, which is a bank building. Beautiful building, very new. And it has like 5 floors or 6 floors. And then 2 or 3 of these floors are lit at night. And I'm going, why the hell are they lit at night?
It should be illegal.
There is nobody working there. There is nobody working. I mean, even if you put the legality of it aside, it's just really money down the drain. It's kind of like stupidest thing I've ever seen. And so yes, we should. So the futuristic sort of really thinking about this is that we should get into artificial intelligence sort of end of this. We should have smart systems that are truly smart, that can learn from our behavior and only give us light where we need it. I mean, there is no need for Paris to be lit to that level at night, that you can see it from space. There is no need for London to be that, but there is need for light. I understand that. I'm going, smart systems can actually sort of take care of
crime prevention is needed with light and things that can't be off.
Well, no, exactly. So we need light to sustain life, but we don't need light to actually interrupt life on Earth. As we know right now, light pollution does majorly that, right? So there is
because it's not intelligent, because it is fixed,
it's not designed.
And unresponsive.
It's not designed well. It's just like, again, it's like saying 250 milliamp lux of light, go with it everywhere. It's just dumb.
Even in the bank at midnight across your street.
Right. It's dumb, isn't it? So being smart about it is that you say, oh yeah, 250 milliamp lux is great for this part of population at this time, but we need to sort of, understand the other end of it was 1 lux of light. 1 lux of light versus, and then street systems and all of that, driving and all of that. That is just another way of thinking about it.
I have to introduce you to a guy called do you know Tapio? He's got a software called Poet.
No
software, which we did. I did a conversation with him in London.
Fantastic.
It's a really good episode, and I'll introduce you guys because there's a lot that you guys could discuss. But it is exactly that. It's this smart AI software lighting, and I think there is no substitute for natural light as well, right? So, do you think maybe we should reconsider the windows? Do you think it's just about opening windows?
Everything. I mean, not only windows, but also shading devices, and also the form of architecture, the material, interior material, as well as exterior material, the form of our streets and form of our cities. Look, Paris, before their Napoleon the Third intervention, was a shithole. It was diseased, everywhere, and really, people took a shit where they, ate. But I think that's the city that essentially light carved. They carved the city to bring light in and to make it sort of open it in a way that would be a lot less prone to diseases and sewage and all of that came in afterwards. But in any case, if you look at Paris, you will see these wide streets, not because of cars, because back then they didn't have cars, at all. But you're looking at something that was very concerned with daylight and daylight penetration. Beautiful city, I think, in that way. So yes, from lighting to glass technology to size of the windows to placement of the windows, and then on the other end of it, on the outside, we have these shading devices that right now they're so stupid. As soon as the sun hits the top of the building, they come down and they just make the room as dark as a dark room, right? It's just like, this is not a theater. This is a place that people are going to spend 8 hours of their daylight hours there. So it's stupid to make it that dark because sun is hitting the window.
What do you do?
Other devices.
What do you do
During
the day?
We have actually, myself.
In your working day, how do you manage the balance of it?
You should see me.
I don't want to put you on the spot here because you might
No.
I love this.
I love this. At the university, I had an office that was facing north. I liked it. It wasn't a bad office. But I hated the fact that I'm not looking at the sun. So there's a office opening to the south side of the building. And I was talking to the person that is moving in. And he goes, I said, oh, you're moving into this office. He goes, yeah, but I think I would not be happy with the sun hitting my face. I said, oh, you may like my office. It's bigger. Yeah. So he comes and looks at the office and he says, yeah, I like this. I go, okay, I'm gone. So I sit in that office. I sat in that office for, days and days. I would have my windows. I mean, there was no shading that I would put up. I would take the shades up and have the sun just hit my face. Of course, I had my screens there. But I do think that it's important for me, as I'm aging also, to get as much light as possible. I hate seeing older people with sunglasses during the day. I just think it's if they don't have eye condition, like glaucoma or something, it's the dumbest thing they do, putting these so-called cool glasses on. You don't need them. Nobody needs them.
But that's it. So your eyes get more sensitive to light the more you use sunglasses, right? So would it, thinking about takeaway tips, is it don't wear sunglasses unless, it's a really bright day or... Oh,
yeah, unless you're, in a very bright environment, like let's say, I don't know, up the mountain skiing, you don't need sunglasses. Older people don't need sunglasses. Maybe young, maybe people in their 20s and teens could use sunglasses but city conditions are never that bright. They're never that bright that anybody would need sunglasses. So I say throw sunglasses away unless you just use them at night. Remember there was a song called I Wear My Sunglasses at Night? I don't know.
No, I haven't heard it.
It's an older song. You should check it out. I'm dating myself. But check that song. I think he's a British artist, actually.
We've actually got the use of sunglasses the wrong way around then. So your daytime
Wear them
shade.
at night. Wear them at night.
So then during your working hours, so say in the North office, what were you doing? Were you, when you didn't have sunlight, were you forcing yourself out first thing in the morning?
A lot of, first thing in the morning here, you don't get light. In the winter.
In the winter, yeah.
No, you need supplementary, light therapy, actually. As you know, the incidence of winter blues or SAD goes up as you come up north. So I say everybody could use a sun therapy, lighting during the early hours of day. Before they go to work. And then when they come home, it's okay. winter. And seasonally, even people that lived closer to the equator, seasonally, historically, people have slept longer hours during the winter and shorter hours during the summer. It wasn't just because of work. It was just, it's
Because
just the
of the
seasonal
rhythms
effect.
of the season, yeah.
Exactly. You need less sleep in summertime and more sleep in wintertime.
What would you?
That's
'Cause
still with us.
I'm aware of the time as well, and I know
Yeah,
that it
yeah.
feels again like I could talk to you again. We'll do it over a
We
beer
will-
or
we will-
something,
we
but
will definitely do it. Yeah.
plenty of time to hang out. It'd be amazing just to have a sort of a final takeaway, really, on your perspective of kind of what given our discussion, what would you like to sort of say about lighting, the modern world, our old rhythms, tips that we might take away? I mean, is there hope? If so, what is it? And what in your mind would you like to sort of leave listeners with?
Well, as an architect, I have to say this, that I hope soon enough, most of us that are involved in design and building of built environment can learn about the physiological impact of light and can understand that policies have to change, designs have to change, essentially architectural paradigm has to shift here. We have been thinking about, what architecture is. We need to think about what architecture does. Very different thing, isn't it? So if we learn to sort of understand that light has a huge impact on our health and well-being, then my work is done, essentially. Whether we are architects or, individuals that are just living our lives, we need to understand it a lot better than we understand it right now. I'm talking about depression. I'm talking about, manic depression and bipolar disorder. We're talking about certain things, seven of causing sort of life-threatening causes of diseases that cause death. We're talking about, a bunch of stuff like cancer and neurodegenerative disorders. So I think it's important for all of us to learn a little more about what light does and how we can use it to our advantage.
Awesome. I mean, what a place to stop.
Yeah.
Andy, thank you so
Great.
much. Awesome.
Great.
Okay, so that's it for this episode of In Light of It All, the show that distills complex science and design research into facts you'll actually remember. If you enjoyed it, follow or subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube so you don't miss the next one. And if you have 30 seconds, please do leave a review. It helps much more than you think. If you've got a question or would like to appear or know someone else whose work we should uncover, feel free to email me at zander@lighttribe.co.uk or just add me on LinkedIn. And remember, the more you understand light, the more you understand how the world works. See you next time.